Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you for taking the time to talk today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on.
Of course. I loved this movie. Um, but I'd love to know, like, were you, because I loved the original Hunger Games movies. I read the books. Were you a fan before you got this part?
I was a fan of the movies. I actually hadn't read the books yet, but became a really big fan through reading the books because, like, they're labeled as YA, but they're so much bigger than that. Like, they appeal to so many different audiences and they're so deep. And I don't think I realized how incredible the books were until I got involved in this project.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, like, I watched the movies first and then I was like, I feel like there's so much more depth in the
Yeah.
books. You know what I mean? So were you Team Peeta then or Team Gale?
I went back and forth, honestly. I think I was Team Peeta. I think I was Team Peeta.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Plus, Josh Hutchins, I mean, he's so good too. So it's easy to love him when you're watching the movies.
He's so lovable and like I mean both actors are amazing, but he just like really brings so much like depth to that character that he really I mean even though I read the books afterwards, I just felt like he embodied exactly what I had pictured for Peeta when I rewatched the movies later.
Yeah. So what was it about? I mean, obviously, I'm sure Hunger Games, but other than that, what was it that drew you to this project?
Um what was it? Well, I actually didn't know I was auditioning for the Hunger Games. I've said that
Oh,
before, but I think that um aside from it being a challenging project and having a lot of new aspects, things that I hadn't done before, like extensive stunt work, I really like Coral's character, which I know can be like a strange statement to make, but I think as an actor, it's really exciting to play characters that are in these kind of like do or die situations and try to figure out how they became the people that they are today. And she's so well written. I think that even though she is sort of ferocious, that she has a lot of depth to her. So that was exciting to me.
I think she's forced to be that way, though. You know what I mean? Obviously, like, I feel like in a different situation, she'd be a really good friend.
Yeah, and I think that also like this movie does a really good job, even sometimes just in glimpses of kind of showing you all the different responses of these kids like being thrown into the arena, and it makes you wonder like how would I be if I was in these circumstances? Would I run and hide? Would I try to do the right thing? Would I try to save people? Or would I just like look out for myself and try to get home?
What do you think you would do?
I think that I'm pretty determined. So I think that I would try to get as far as I could without hurting somebody. But I think at a certain point, like especially if it came to like a character like Wovie or Dill, I think that like my humanity would probably get the better of me, and I'd be like, whatever, I'll just die here. Like I'm not gonna go that far. Yeah.
That's where you draw the line.
Yeah. But then again, you don't know, right? Because like Coral's raised in these completely different circumstances where she, even though it's like kind of the beginnings of like career districts, like that's still being instilled in them that this is what they're meant to do. And like if you're raised that way, like who knows like how that's going to affect you.
It's crazy to think about. Like, that's what I love so much
Yeah.
about it's like it shows you, like, again, what would you do if your back's up against the wall? Like, do you just lay down and die, or do you fight for your life? It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something really like interesting to think about. And then like also the whole like why she hates Lucy Gray so much, I think is one of the things that excited me the most about this character. Just because trying to justify that, which for me it was so clear reading the script that it's like Lucy Gray embodies everything that she wasn't allowed to be. Like she's preserved her innocence, a sense of freedom, like hope for people and humanity. And I think that if you come from a career district, especially, that can be really frustrating to see someone who's kind of allowed themselves to still be a kid in spite of everything and maybe not having been allowed to do that. And also someone who, Coral's eyes is ultimately breaking the rules.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's not fair for her.
Yeah, it's not fair.
You mentioned the stunt work, but I mean, some of those scenes are just incredible. I have to say, you were my favorite person in the games. Like, I
Oh,
absolutely
yeah.
loved. I was like, oh my god. Like, I know who wins, obviously, but I was like, I wouldn't be mad if they just totally changed things up. And
Well, I think they do a good job because every time I watch the movie, I'm like, maybe I'm gonna make it, and I'm like, oh no, damn it,
maybe I'll live this
maybe I'll
time.
live this time. Yeah, the stunts were so. I'm not going to say fun. Like it was terrifying because I'm really afraid of heights and I had never done this kind of work before, but it was like really intense. Like the scene with Lamina, they had us on this like, I don't know, like scaffolding, like that was meant to mimic the beam before we got into the arena, right? And I had to like climb it every single day and practice like standing on there. Like, and it was the one that we practiced with was actually higher and more narrow than the one on set. And I'm up there like I'm so afraid of heights and I had to work really hard. Meanwhile, Irene, who plays Lamina, is just like dancing around up there like nothing's wrong. She's like has no fear in her body, just like anyway.
That's so funny. How long did you have to like prepare for these stunts? Like how long was the training?
So it was about a month. We got there a month before we started shooting, and we were, I think some like BTS has been released of like this crazy like arena that we had just for stunts where it was like everybody, at the beginning of the day, we would all do like that big fight sequence, which by the way, we did most days without ever cutting. That means that you had the entire thing memorized. It was like hit, duck, roll, this person swings past you. So like I don't know how much it comes through, but like we had learned that entire fight top to finish, which means that you literally would fight every single person in there before it was over, or at least dodge them or something. Yeah. And we did that over and over and over again every single day. And then after we finished that portion of the training, everybody would break off into their individual stunts. So like Jessup, Nick, who plays Jessup, would practice like falling backwards. I would practice climbing the scaffolding and trying to kill Lamina and so on and so forth.
That's crazy. So did you guys get to spend like time together before, or did you just, as soon as you got there, that first day is when you met?
It was crazy. The first day we met, we were literally put in a circle like in the beginning of the games. And I'm like looking around and I'm trying to figure out like who's in my alliance, like who's playing who. It was so strange. That's what I mean when I was like the real Hunger Games, because like that's how we met, was doing warm-ups before we started to do this like big fight sequence. Yeah, that was our first dance.
That's crazy. It's like, are they gonna make us kill each other? Like what's that?
Literally, like we started fighting each other before we'd had a chance to get names. It was so wild. Yeah.
That's so crazy. Well, with something like heavy like this, because it's pretty heavy and dark,
Yeah.
did you guys like keep things light on set and like have fun?
I think different people have different processes. So you always have to like try and respect that. But I think for the most part, most people that I had scenes with were similar in the sense that like obviously if you're like none of us are like full method, but if you're like 30, 40 minutes out, like you're doing your own thing, headphones in, like you're focusing kind of thing. And then there's like a little bit to shake it off. But as soon as it's like 10 minutes out of the scene, we're like getting coffee and like hanging out after I just like stabbed Kel in the middle of the arena like 6 times in a row. Yeah.
That's funny. So what is Rachel like? Because she seems so sweet, and I adore her in this movie. But what's she like in real life?
She's a really nice person. I have nothing bad to say about Rachel Zegler. I think that she really loves what she does and that comes through. And I think that she puts a lot of time into trying to get to know everybody on set. And her and I had a lot of scenes together. So we became very close friends. And I think that I have a lot of admiration for her, not just as an artist, but as a human being.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, she seems sweet, and she's got an incredible voice. I was like, I could listen to her sing all day.
Okay, the funny thing about that is, when like she sings over like to the snakes or whatever, so they did a lot of wide. So for most of it, I just stayed dead on the floor. So I got to listen to her like sing. It was gorgeous. I like took a nap at one point, like listening to Rachel singing over my dead body.
That's so funny. What was so were there, obviously the snakes aren't real, but did they have anything there at all, or was it just
No, and that was kind of cool because it can, I mean, it depends on how you like to work, right? But you're right. Like originally, before CGI was like more advanced, what we would do is you'd either have a suit with balls on it, or maybe you'd have like fake, like beanbag snakes, like pinned to you, and you'd react to those, and then they'd CGI them in later. Now they like don't have to do that anymore. So they literally just go, okay, you're attacked by snakes. And you can like grab an imaginary one and then they'll put them in later. So it actually, some people don't like it. I personally think it gives you so much freedom as an artist because you can decide like exactly what's happening and then CGI will work around what you've created in your performance.
oh, that's so cool. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder what they would do for it, but that's crazy.
Yeah. But then it means that like also when you see everybody die, like whether they try to rip them off or rive around or just let the snake, that's a choice that the actor made.
See, that makes it. I'm excited to watch. We're going to see it as a family. I attended the
Cool.
screening, but my kids love Hunger Games. They're 10 and 12, so I wanted to make sure I saw it first, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's
So
good. They've
yeah,
made it. Yeah.
because it can be. I mean, like I said, we watched the other ones, and it is a little dark.
Yeah. This one, there's a lot of like implied sort of gruesome stuff, but it's not so heavy on like the visuals. So it's still like appropriate for, younger ages.
Yeah. So we're excited to see it again. But now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be watching those scenes thinking about how, like you said, the choice that the actor made. I love that. I find that so fascinating. And so well, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And last question, what would you say to people? Like, why should people see this in the theater?
Um, it's visually stunning, but also I think it immerses you in a more detailed story of Panem and of the tributes. And I think that's something that you really need to experience firsthand in the theaters. This movie, it goes along with the trilogy, but it also is a standalone movie. And I think it's something really exceptional. And there's something in it for everyone. So yeah, go see it in theaters. It's absolutely worth it, in my biased opinion.
Yeah, you're like, and I'm in it, but
Right. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I'm going again on Saturday, so I can't wait to see it again.
oh, awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.